see John there, W6GC.
Hello.
And what's our time? Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so we're probably going to get some more people straggling in. But what I'll do is we're going to do something a little bit different. Welcome, everybody, to the LandOps Virtual Basecamp. Everybody say hi one time. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
CQ. Okay, so we're going to do something a little bit different tonight. We're not going to spend a lot of time on introductions. What we'll do is we'll probably just go ahead and skip the introductions altogether. A lot of you already know each other. If not, you can say hi at the end. But what we're going to do today is we have a guest speaker, John Emig. Our topic today for today's virtual base camp is going to be APRS. And next month, if you guys been watching, I did a little bit of swap. The onboard navigation is going to be next month instead of today. Okay, so we pulled a fast one on you. So tonight, automatic packet reporting system. And for those of you who don't know, you're going to get a little bit of an overview of the mechanics and how it's used from John Emig, our guest speaker tonight. And I guess what I'll do here, it seems like we have a good crowd already. Why don't we just go ahead and get started? John's going to give us about maybe 10, 15 minutes of an overview of the mechanics of APRS. But exactly before we do that, I just want to say one thing. And then I'll share my testimony about how I'm using APRS. You know, we stuff our vehicles, for some of you who know us, we stuff our vehicles with gadgets and devices. And at this point, you're right. Can I hear an amen? The problem.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So the problem with this is that
You have no idea.
The more devices that you have, the more you're going to experience failure and frustration and troubleshooting and fixing connections. Because, you know, our vehicles out on the trail is like having a 9.5 earthquake shaking the truck and trying to rip apart all our connections. So it's not about how many devices we can stuff into our vehicle. It's about how many devices we can remove and still get the same functionality. So we're going to start off with John Emig. So I'm going to just say, give a brief introduction to John. John is 30 years as an amateur radio operator. He's a member of LandOps since June of 2015, so just about 6 years.
Wow.
He's a member of the Bear Valley Search and Rescue, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, John, is a division of the San Bernardino Sheriff Department.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, got it right. And you know, he's sat next to me when we do net control, and he's awesome with radio, and he's awesome with APRS. So we're going to go ahead and get started. John, why don't you just share a brief about yourself and give us the basics of APRS?
Well, you kind of got it. That's it. Me in a nutshell. Been around forever, older than dirt, and but I still like doing this stuff. I do personally. I do a lot of well, I didn't this year, but work a lot of long distance foot races, 100-mile foot races. Some of you have been involved in those. Some of you were involved in perhaps the Kodiak, which is the one I actually am the comm leader. But I work all over the state, up including the western states, which if anybody knows ultra running, that's the oldest 100-mile foot race in the world. So, and work that every year and scheduled to do it again this June, hopefully, with any luck. APRS is a powerful tool. It's been around for a very long time. And it's pretty rock solid. Most of you, I imagine a lot of you have APRS in your vehicles. It's a fun thing for hams to do so people can keep track of you. Although I have noticed that people who don't understand what we're doing, they think that your people are spying on you. And they're not, because I can turn it off anytime I want. It's a very, very effective tool for search and rescue. Has been a very effective tool for LandOps. And also, I've used it a lot of times really effectively when doing support for a bicycle race where you have SAG vehicles out there who are driving around looking for bicyclists that need assistance. No longer do you have to ask people where they are. You know where they are. You know where they are. In fact, and it can be very effective. We had a case on a bicycle race here in Big Bear where a participant fell, badly broke her humerus, upper bone in her arm, and they were trying to get her out by helicopter. They didn't know where she was. Well, my vehicle was very near her, and my vehicle has APRS. So the command post was able to say, well, we know where John is, so we know where she is. And they were able to use that coordinates, and they actually dropped the guy almost right on top of me. They send down a medic. He came down very close to me, which is not a lot of fun when you got a helicopter blowing dirt in your face. But anyway, so powerful tool. And it has been really good for land ops, knowing where people are at any given time. But let me talk to you a little bit about the mechanics of this APRS thing. First of all, almost exclusively, it's on VHF. The national APRS frequency is 144.39. Okay, it is not repeater based. There are repeaters, but when a APRS repeater has when an APRS repeater repeats the signal, it's just store and repeat. So it uses the same frequency. So you don't have the problems you have with a regular 2-meter repeater that needs cans and all big giant parts and lots of things like that. But we all know that VHF is very line of sight. And so we have to obey those rules when we're using APRS. And so that's why I ask people when they go out on a land ops mission or any mission is they do not use beacon mode. And for those of you who use APRS, you know what beacon mode is. And basically it changes the frequency of your transmission based on your speed and your turns and curves and all sorts of things like that. It's kind of handy, but it's really bad for what we do. Because
you mean intervals, right?
If you lose a person's signal, okay, they just sit in one location, and there's it doesn't get updated, so it appears to you at net control that the person hasn't moved. The same thing is true if you're actually are stopped, okay, and you're in beacon mode. It looks exactly the same. So that's a real problem for us. So we'd like to have it not, because obviously if I see that you haven't sent a beacon for 20 minutes, then I know that you're out of range and I need to start making some radio calls or something. Okay. One of the things that we do out in the field is, as you know, a lot of the places that we work on our missions is out in the middle of nowhere, where there is very little. I remember one of my favorite was Bacon Ranch Airport. Remember that one?
Yeah.
That there is nothing out there. There's no radio frequency out there whatsoever. So everything that we had to provide, which included repeaters, everything. And so we don't have anything. Now, keep in mind that when you send out an APRS signal out of your car, it goes out into the air and very often is picked up either by a repeater or is picked up by what they call an iGate, which actually sends it to the servers that put it online so you can see the location on a map. That still goes on with us. But generally speaking, most of the time in the land ops base, we have no internet, so we can't see it. So the only signals that we get are the ones that come directly from radio frequency.
Right. Now, John, just a question for you. We set up simplex repeaters or crossband to help us bridge some gaps. Don't you also have somebody in our group I know puts a digipeater up? Isn't that yours?
Yes. In fact, I actually have one that I'm going to show you. And I think anybody who goes back a long ways or has seen the videos remembers a picture of me carrying this humongous 45-pound pile of radio crap and batteries to the top of a mountain. You remember that one? You remember that? That was so much fun. Yeah. Well, let me. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change my thing here. What I've done is I brought you. This is what I have now for a repeater. This is what it looks like now.
That's the whole thing.
It's an ammo can, a plastic ammo can. It's a whole thing, including battery. Everything's in here, including battery. I attach an antenna to this guy right here. Right. Okay. I usually use an X30, Diamond X30 on about a 6 foot or about more like a 10-foot mast on top of a mountain. Wow. And I'm talking, it's working really, really well. So we'll put up at the same location. We'll put up a crossband repeater for voice. We'll also put up a repeater for APRS, and it makes all the difference in the world. So if we know that we're going to be if we're going to be sending a team into another valley, we could actually just drop that on the top of the hill between us and the valley, and we can get it to repeat the signal to us. Absolutely. Yes, it will repeat all the signals it gets. Right. But what happens is when the program and I like all the programs work basically the same, but I particularly like a program called Star Trek, which is designed by search and rescue team in New Zealand, but it's a good program. But what it does is your radio is going to send off an APRS packet. It's going to go to the repeater. Okay, the repeater is going to repeat it right back. Okay, but your program is only going to report to you one of those. So you won't get multiple reports. Whichever one comes in first, that's the one you see on your screen. So the programs are Star Trek is really a good program. Let me see where I am in I've actually made a list of things I needed to talk about here. Talk about Yeah, and I talked about how we're usually out in the boonies, and that's why we need to use that repeater, why we need to use something that's going to get us a signal, because we're not going to be able to see what's going on. Now, as far as online, your online presence, although I have had situations where, for instance, the time we went to the pink, what is the pink mine? The Rose Mine. Okay. Yeah. It turns out that the mountain that I put my repeater on also was seeing an eye gate that was located in Big Bear Valley. We couldn't see it from where we were. So when I got home, the whole world had been able to see everything we were doing because my repeater repeated it to the eye gate, and it went online. But we had no idea. So also, just keep in mind too, 144.39, which is the IPRS frequency, is just a convention. You can use any frequency you want. So theoretically, we could decide we want a different frequency, and then no one else would be able to see what we're doing. So just FYI, you don't have to use the APRS frequency. You can use any frequency as long as we're all on the same frequency, obviously. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing magic about that frequency except that everybody in this country uses it. And those of you who, hi Greg, Candy, I see you there. So you can, in fact, if you go to Europe, they use a different frequency. Mm-hmm. That's just their convention. That's just the way they do it. So, so what I'm going to ask you to do, John, is go ahead and go through your list
And then just for everybody listening, there's a few questions coming up, and they're already typing them in the chat. I can repeat those to you. We can field the questions between myself, you, Jim Byram, and Greg and Candy if you want to chime in. So let's go ahead and go through your list there.
No, I kind of got ahead of myself with the repeater and how much. Obviously, this is much easier to carry than a 40-pound box with batteries in it.
Of course, yeah. But you know, it was box battery really made for a great video.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you actually were able to get that video. It's kind of embarrassing for me.
Made you look like a muscle man climbing up the mountain there. So.
Oh man, I tell you. Anyway, so I think I'm kind of done with my presentation. I hope it made some sense, and I'm ready for whatever questions need to be asked.
Well, there's a really good one that came in while you were talking, and it looks like it's from Frederick Rab. He says, "Can you explain how LandOps uses APRS without internet access?" Which, if I can comment just on that part. That's really how we use it, is with no internet access. We just it's a radio frequency beacon. But then he says, what software do you use to show positions on a map? So it sounds like you're using StarTrack. But
That's correct.
Why don't you go ahead and field that one?
I like StarTrack
access, right?
I like StarTrack a lot because it allows me to have multiple inputs. So I could have something coming in from the internet. I could also have something coming in from RF. So all I have to do is I take a radio, any radio, and in fact, a lot of times, because all you're using for is a receiver, is I have an O2 ICOM O2A2, O2AT. Anyway, with one of the original brick, looked like a brick. My dad bought it for me when I first got my license 30 years ago. Okay, and I use that as a receiver. Because it just has to be, all it has to do is just receive a signal, and I plug that via a some sort of a TNC into the StarTrack, a computer running StarTrack. Mm-hmm. It deciphers the code and puts it on there, puts it on the map as a signal, and it tells you who is sending the signal. There's a lot of information that comes with it.
Okay, so we have
StarTrack. SARTRAK.
That's
and,
what you use.
You can look that up online. There's two versions of it. There's a ham radio version, which is the one we use, and then there's a search and rescue version. And the search and rescue version is much more complex and allows them to have a server on site that allows a bunch of different computers around a search scene to display the same information. We don't need that. We just use the regular program. But it has a lot of neat things. Like, for instance, it allows me, let's say my call sign is W6GC, but I can change the display on the screen from W6GC to Team 1 or Team 2 or Team 12.
Right.
You just put the link up on the chat.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, good. We see that. The StarTrack. Thank you. Who did that? Chuck. Thank you. WB6YOK. Okay. And sorry, Mikkel, it took so long. I didn't see you. My screen's so busy, but I hope we got you in. Okay. So
yeah, I see him.
Yeah, good. W4Ops, right? I
Hello?
remember that call sign.
Oh, Michael's mic is muted.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I had to figure out where the button was to unmute it. But hey, Chris. Hey to everyone else.
Hey, greetings.
It's been years since I've said hi to anyone on LandOps. So
yeah, okay.
I'd like to join the meeting.
Well, we're doing the virtual thing, and even though we're starting to go out again, we're still going to continue the virtual Basecamp and have different topics each month. So to answer the question about software, let's see, Greg, Candy, or Jim, do you want to chime in on software that you might be using for APRS?
Well, I've actually brought my little tablet with me out of the car, and right now, I'll put it up here so people can see. This is Backcountry Navigator running. There it goes.
Yeah,
I
there
don't
you
know if
go.
everybody can see that. So all those dots are APRS beacons in Southern California that are showing up. I actually am operating this one right now on just using their built-in map. I haven't switched it over for off-road, but I'm also using the internet to drive this right now, as opposed to being connected to my radio. But this would be Backcountry Navigator, and the way you set that is up here in this corner here. You'll see a drop down comes up, and then you tap.
Is that APRS Droid that you tap?
Yeah, so you tap that, and can you guys see that?
Well, it's kind of disappearing into your
yeah,
background.
it's because of my screen. There it goes. It's getting reflection. But so this is it running in the background. Hold on, let me change my backdrop real quick, because I think that will help. Stand by.
Yeah.
Let me get rid of the backdrop.
It's running
Backdrop.
Backcountry
There.
Navigator.
There we go.
The software
There we
that's there. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I got rid of the backdrop. So now you can see these. This is what Backcountry Navigator does. Is it has a hook into APRS Droid, and let me switch programs here real quick. And so in the background is APRS Droid. This is what APRS Droid would look like when it's in tracking mode, picking up all the different beacons from people.
Right.
So that right now, of all the software packages out there that have downloadable maps for off-roading and stuff, I don't know of any other that handle it so well as Backcountry Navigator. So anybody else can chime in there as well. But Backcountry Navigator also has a new version that's still in beta, and I'll be glad to show that to you here. Give me a sec. This is called Backcountry Navigator XE, and it's unfortunately it's just not ready for prime time.
So you're the guinea pig.
So yeah, I'm one of their beta testers. So this is what the screen looks like for Backcountry Navigator XE. The menuing is entirely different. It's very unintuitive. That search bar up here on the top, this is where you would tap in coordinates if you want to go someplace.
Mm-hmm.
And then it creates a search for going after coordinates. Over here on the other side is where you would tap. I'm doing this backwards.
That's all right.
Oops, wrong deal here.
It's kind of hard to see anyways, Jim.
Yeah.
But okay, so you're using Backcountry Navigator.
Yep.
And let's ask Greg and Candy, what program are you guys using? Do you see APRS data coming in on are you using an iPad or tablet?
So I use a Samsung tablet, basically the same thing that Jim has. We use Backcountry Navigator. The first one he showed, the Navigator Pro, is the one I use. I haven't switched to the newer version, although I have it, I just don't use it. I haven't taken the time to learn all the new menus. I think it's all the same stuff. It's just organized different, so it's harder to use because I'm already familiar with the other one.
Right.
And basically I get a signal off my radio that has built-in APRS, and it goes to a mobile link device, which converts it to a Bluetooth, and then it goes Bluetooth to my tablet. I like having the Bluetooth on my tablet rather than the wired, which is the way you went, I think, Chris, because I like to be able to take my tablet out of the vehicle and sit and watch it or do something with it. or go talk to somebody else about what route I want to take and what I want to do, and still have all my information updated to see what's going on.
That's a good reason to have that, yes.
Yeah, so I like that. I believe that Jim may have a similar setup using the Bluetooth also.
It's true. I use the MobileLink TNC3, which is their latest version, and I've been told by the MobileLink people that one happens to work better with the Yaesu radios, because the Yaesu radios, their packet data that they use for APRS is not exactly conforming to the standard packet data that's used for APRS. But I understand if you put your APRS droid into the Kenwood, what is it? There's a Kenwood mode, and it will read the packets coming from the radio and move the packets back and forth properly. So
as everybody's listening, we've kind of gone through from the very basics of what we use APRS to do, tracking locations, which is sort of the primary thing that we use it for. We're getting velocity, vehicle velocity. You can put all kind of data in there, whatever you want to do. You can even use this to text. But now we're all the way on the user end, and it's actually crossing over into navigation. So APRS is obviously something we use in the vehicle navigation. So that's why we're kind of crossing over into this realm. But that question that was asked earlier about, so to be clear, we do not need, when we go out into the backcountry, all we need is 2 radios to be able to talk to each other with these packet information. And we don't need satellite, we don't need internet, we just need to be able to hear, the radios need to hear each other. And then we can get the location data, we can get it in text form, we can see it on a map, and that's what you're hearing. We're transferring the data from the radio, from our 2-meter radio, which is transmitting on 144.39, and that's that squawk you hear that sounds like a fax machine. Now, a couple things we want to mention today. I was told we got to mention some things. It always happens. We're out and about, and somebody turns their APRS on and they put it on the wrong frequency, or they put it on the main net control frequency, and somebody's radio keeps squawking APRS on the wrong frequency. So we have a way of kind of tracking that down, but everybody should be aware where you're transmitting on. So always keep your APRS frequency to 144.39. So again, no internet necessary. Everything else advances from there. Navigation, being able to see other people's position that's coming through your radio, you're receiving it, seeing it on the tablet, and then also your position being transmitted out perhaps on a regular basis, so we can watch your movement. Now, this is all for situational awareness. Situational awareness equals safety, equals fun, okay, adventure. And I want to tell you about how my system was set up before. You heard Bluetooth being used. My mode right now in my vehicle, I have a lot of stuff in my little Jeep. If you look in that, it's just, yeah, it looks cool, but I'm trying to reduce the amount of wiring and headaches. How many times have I been out and my Bluetooth failed, my radio worked, my iPad's charged, but now, but the GPS failed, so I got to reset the GPS, I got to reboot the whole system, because I had, and I still have, the Kenwood TMD710. I don't have the newest one, so it doesn't have the GPS in the radio. So in order for that APRS to work, I had to have a dashboard mounted GPS puck, or my little Garmin, those old-fashioned Garmins, and that was data connected to my Kenwood. And then I had a Bluetooth out to my iPad, and I was running Gaia with a Bluetooth. And I'm telling you, just those 4 devices, something would always fail. And I would say, Jim, can you take the lead? My navigation is down. Okay, so now what I did, I have that system in the truck, but I'm starting to pull out the extra GPS because what I hooked up this last week was my Yaesu. I got a new Yaesu FTM 400 XDR. So the Yaesu FTM 400 has a GPS in the radio. That makes a whole big difference. I don't have to have a GPS external with its own power source. With my Bluetooth, I had its own power source. I had to keep that thing charged. So now the way I have it, and I have to thank Jeff Van Ness. Jeff, wave, say hi to everybody. Just go ahead and say hi. Jeff,
unmute.
So Jeff's kind of sitting in the dark over there.
Yeah, sorry.
I have to thank Jeff and a couple others here. Jeff really, he sent me a video that showed somebody actually just using a splitter. So I could charge my tablet. I switched from iPad to an Android so I could use Backcountry Navigator. And it only took me a few tries and I got this whole system working. So I went from 4 devices to 2. I cut them in half.
Comment?
Go ahead, comment.
Yeah. It's a fine line you walk, though. I've been doing this a long time, too. And where you can get into trouble is where you become so tightly integrated you have a single point of failure.
Yeah. The whole thing.
So you have to find out what balance you're comfortable with.
Right.
But personally, I'd rather have more stuff with spares, to be perfectly honest with you. And I spent 20 years as a military communicator, and you haven't got time to fix stuff when you're in the thick of things. You just got to swap it out and move.
Yes.
So that's another point of view.
That is a good comment. And in many ways, I am like that. I have an extra VHF antenna, even though I have 4 radios in the truck, because sure enough, I'll go through some thicket and I'll rip off one of my antennas. So having extra antennas, having more stuff is actually, there's an argument for that as well. But I just had so much trouble with my failure points, and probably because I was using sort of outdated Gaia. My Bluetooth was still old. It's still old technology. So, but at least in this situation, I got it down to 2 devices. So that's my win for the week, and I'm happy about it. I do have a backup. I just asked Jim to pull around front and navigate for me if anything fails. Okay, so
I see one question here that I could probably answer.
Go ahead, John.
Somebody wants to know, is there a way to specify that your APRS shouldn't be routed to the internet? And my understanding is no. Once it gets picked up on iGate, gets sent down the wire, it's on the internet, and that's that. The only way you can really do that to make sure is to use a discrete frequency, another frequency. Then it won't get on the internet. And in fact, that's something good to remember from time to time if you ever want to, and also if you're testing your APRS capability, use another frequency, because when that signal comes back to you, you have no idea whether it went for an iGate, whether it went through a digital repeater. You have no idea. The only way you can be sure is if you're using a discrete frequency, a different frequency. Then the only way it came back to you is because it worked. So just something to think about. But in answer to your question, no. Once you send it out, it's on 144.39. If it's picked up by an iGate, it's on the internet.
Well, John, this is Russ.
Hi, Russ.
One thing I'm wondering about when I saw that question was the digipeater path, where you have the wide 1-1 and the wide 2-1 and all that. I never understood those, but I thought that digipeater path setting had to do with how many times your packet would be relayed.
That is correct.
And I'm
That's
thinking
true.
that there might be some kind of a setting where you would say, where it would not relay your packet. So only the station that gets it would see it, but they would not relay it.
Okay. You can't really do that, because what you're talking about is they're not talking about eye gates with the wide protocol. They're talking about digipeaters, and the reason for that is because what'll happen is if you make it wide 2-1, okay, it's only going to repeat 3 times, period. And if you didn't have that, could you imagine how long it would take for the system to break down with everybody repeating every signal forever? It would take about 15 minutes, or not even that long, 20 seconds, and the whole system would be. So that was the answer to that, is that it will only be repeated a few times. But those are only for digipeaters. Once the iGate gets it, it doesn't send it out. It just keeps it. It just sends it on the internet. So that's not, no, that wouldn't work at all. No.
Comment?
Go ahead, comment.
Yeah, hi, this is Dan, WL7COO in Mariposa. I might have a decade on most of you actually, but APRS, when it was originally implemented, was before the internet. And digipeaters are not repeaters because they're collision sensing multiple access, much like TCP/IP. So they can handle a stream of packets. I think the maximum content is about 160 bytes that you can put in anything you want. And along with a lat, it's going to, well, I shouldn't say that. I think you can do APRS without lat long, but I'm not sure I could figure out how exactly. And using 4.39er, you're making things a lot more complex than you need to if you have a portable digipeater with any kind of TNC that handles APRS. Just change the frequency to some simplex frequency other than 4.9 or 3. And then all you're going to hear is the traffic you're interested in. Mm-hmm. And most digipeater sysops would be willing for a public service event or an exercise to take, a high level digipeater off frequency and put it on any frequency you want for that purpose, for the duration of the event. So if you're using the North American VHF digipeater frequency, you're not going to know where all your packets are coming from unless you have a way to locate the call signs and the information in their packets, interpreting it somehow.
We do have that. We do have that information available to us in the packet, but I agree with you 110%. If I had my druthers, every land ops event would have its own discrete frequency for APRS. It would be
nothing stopping you.
Much cleaner. What's stopping me? Yeah. Simplicity. Okay, we have
it would be simpler.
Variation in the skill levels of people and their APRS skills.
Yeah,
and
have a lot of different skill levels.
More to the point, there's always some poor soul who doesn't get the word.
Right, and so we have no idea where he is. Yeah. So
a comment.
It makes it simple. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Frank.
Well, I agree with what John just said, but as a system operator for APRS here in Southern Nevada, I can tell you most of these mountaintop digipeaters are not frequency agile. So this real solution is to, as John suggests, change the primary frequency to an event, something for that specific event, and go from there. The mountaintops will continue to operate for the other part of the public.
And put your digipeater up if you need broader coverage for a particular op.
Absolutely. Okay. I have an ammo box a lot like John's. We can blanket the area.
You can use a Kenwood D710G as a digipeater.
Sure.
That's true. You can use the 700 to 710 and a number of other radios. They all make great digipeaters, and you can, of course, those are frequency agile.
Yeah, if you're really masochistic, you can use some of the ICOMs for what do they call it? DAPRS or DPRS.
Yeah, DPRS.
DPRS.
But don't go there if simplicity is your goal.
No.
No, I don't go there at all.
So for, it sounds like this time we have a lot of different experience, and some of the team here that's on the Zoom. Oh, there's a couple more that's still trying to get in. I want to thank you for your expertise and your comments. But just so you know, LandOps is a lot of variety of low experienced first timers. Now we do have a special comms team that when we go out, we do put things on different frequencies for our own sake so that we're not, so we can talk behind everybody else's back, if you will, because we have to perform some overwatch and we don't want to give away coordinates because they're supposed to be playing a game where they're picking up the coordinates. But sometimes we have to communicate behind their back, so we'll get on a different frequency and talk there. So I like the idea of the event frequency. We haven't tried that, have we yet, John?
No, but I am, my digipeater, all of my digipeters are frequency agile, no problem at all.
Okay, excellent. Okay, any other comments or questions on APRS?
I am curious to get an opinion on the utility of Zaster, which is a quite common mapping suite of tools for APRS.
Okay, does anybody have experience with that?
I've used Zaster. I use it with my Raspberry Pi.
Okay, Sergio. So Chuck, what you want?
Well, I'm just curious if people have found it useful in a tactical situation. Star Trek is new to me. I'm gonna be looking at Zaster too. I don't know where the trade-off is yet because I haven't taken that deep a dive into it.
Star Trek is a lot easier to use. A lot of features on it. It has a lot. It's a lot easier to use. A lot easier to read. The maps easier to pull up and stuff. Zaster is made more for Linux, and that's what I use it on my Debian and my Raspberry Pi. That one has a lot more features as Linux usually does, but it is a lot more complicated. But I have used it. I've connected a SDR to my Raspberry Pi, and I use Zaster to plot out all the APRS nodes that come in from everything coming in. So it works pretty good. And Zaster will also work as a digipeater and an iGate if you have an internet connection.
Okay. Yeah, those are some of the things I wanted to look at. As far as complexity, I'm a glutton for punishment. I actually have OpenStreetMap server running standalone in my command post. So
you can download the OpenStreetMap maps onto Zaster.
Yes.
and use it without internet. So it works really great for that.
And there's also some groups out there that I keep getting emails from them. There's a lot of guys working on both Zaster as well as they're building Raspberry Pi devices that tie in, will talk, or will take the place of a mobile link TNC3, but using some of the same protocols. It's way past my pay grade, but it's interesting to read every now and then.
If you really want to experiment with it, there's a YouTube channel, KM4ACK is his call sign. That's also his YouTube channel. And he builds a Raspberry Pi from scratch. And it has all it has HF with it. It has Zaster in it, APRS, tracking digipeater, all that stuff on it. And the videos he has are really, really, really good if you want to check that out.
What was that call sign again, please?
Kilo Mike 4, Alpha Charlie Kilo.
He's quite how do I say it? He's a good educator.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with him. So how do I say this? The first GPS I ever saw was handed to me by the helicopter pilot, an Alaska State Trooper helicopter pilot, when he dropped me and a colleague off to search the shores of an inlet in 1986. And it weighed more than the 16-inch MacBook Pro I'm looking at right now. And I said, "Where's the instruction manual?" And he said, "I don't know. That's why I'm giving it to you." So needless to say, we
come a long way. We have.
Yeah, come a very long way, and it's mind-boggling. And just an opinion I feel strongly about is that any amateur radio undertaking that's worth doing has to accommodate the guy who got or gal who got her license yesterday.
Yes.
Because otherwise, our avocation, which I think is socially more valuable than ARRL is allowing it to be right now, is going to die. And, we have to make our own future or our children's and grandchildren's future. So Land Mobile just impresses the hell out of me for y'all's willingness to go do what you do. I mean, I spent more of my youth being lost than I care to admit to, but it was totally, it was intentional.
Where are you from, Dan? Where are you located?
I'm in I'm 4 miles southwest of Mariposa, California.
Oh, okay.
Manny, W6RUF, was a wonderful contributor to our Aries efforts up here.
Okay, so
and I still mourn his passing.
Yes, we do too.
We do too.
But I don't know. I'm real respectful and impressed with what you guys do, knowing full well I'm never going to be able to do that kind of stuff again. And I'm happy to help out any way I can, wherever I can.
Well, wherever you're at.
But I would warn you. That when you guys talk about KISS, you need to do an about face, because I haven't heard anybody say anything that was simple. And I've got enough experience with search and rescue to know that if it can fail, it's going to, and people's lives will depend on it.
We used to have an expression in the Signal Corps was soldier-proof it.
And you can't do that with surface mount electronic components that were largely manufactured in China.
Yeah.
Failure modes are growing logarithmically faster than the utility we get from these things.
Well, I think one of the things that we as a community can do, certainly this one, and this is the first time I've been a member for a couple of years now. I just have never participated because I live in Utah, and that makes the logistics kind of interesting.
You don't have an airplane you can put your rig in?
It weighs 10,000 pounds.
Oh, you have an old one.
Anyway, that brings up another comment here in a minute. But what we need to do though is for those of us who participate that are not doing this kind of stuff, and this is where I'm going to put my old tech writer hat on. We need to cookbook this stuff. We need to say insert tab A into slot B, and create the documents with pictures that show people how to do that. Now, so
you have to stop in the past in order to be able to accomplish that. You got
I'm not going to argue the point
in the recent past and agree on it.
I agree.
Or you'll never finish the documentation.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. And so you have to establish a baseline. And for those of us that have more experience or more inclination, we can play with the funny stuff. But for those folks who are coming out for the first or second or third time, we don't want to have them worry about the damn equipment.
And you need pictures because they may or may not understand the language we take for granted.
That's what I'm saying. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's just a thought.
Well, what happens at a lot of our events is one-on-one Elmering. Somebody very new will come in and have a question, and it may be about a GPS, it may be about some a radio, and somebody else has that radio and they go and help them set it up or show them how to program or get into the menu. One person, when we do our videos, we asked him, what is land ops? He says, land ops is getting out and remembering how to use your radios because they're complicated. They got so many buttons. And I find myself getting lost in my radio, or if I don't use it enough, I'll forget how to get to that feature. So we do keep it simple. We have a lot of help on the ground, if you will. And
well, I'll tell you one thing that I do. Somebody mentioned they support endurance races. Well, that's mostly what I do out here,
okay.
like the Moab 240 and 240-mile endurance race.
Yeah.
And I always make it a point when I gather a crew to go out and do that for a week, usually in October, is to get one or two guys that have never done anything like that in their lives and haul them along. Tell them, bring a sleeping bag, make sure you stay warm. We're going to show you how to do radios in the wild. And that works out pretty well. And that's pretty much what you guys are doing, which is great.
One thing on that is I'd like to say thank you, Chris, for the Whiskey Falls trip that we did.
Whiskey Falls.
Because I had the FRS radio. I had the FRS, the family radio. I did a little Motorola, and it was patched over to the Subaru, and I connected over to the what was that? It was a Chevy Blazer.
Radio. Yeah, we had a radio chain going on for you.
Yeah, amateur radio is keeping Rube Goldberg alive and well.
It was pretty cool. That was a good. It was a good exercise. I was very impressed with that, and I'd like to see about doing some more of those. It was kind of fun.
Okay.
With that ammo box would definitely make it a lot easier to carry that up a mountaintop than the 40-pound pack that the gentleman had there a while back. So,
are you licensed yet, or are you...
Negative?
Okay.
Negative. The FRS worked out perfectly. I got the little CB unit, so I haven't been out in a while. So, but that's fine. I'm more happy to run along and shoot and scoot. I mean, I don't know, whatever. It's all fun. Just stop being out there in the field. So.
Yeah,
Chris,
that's all good. Thank you.
Chris, it's John. Can I come in for a minute?
John.
Hello?
Go ahead, John.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I have actually Eric asked a question, and he asked the cost of the ammo box, and it's not very much. The actual radio in there is a Baofeng, but it's the 82C, which in my mind is the only decent radio that Baofeng ever built. It's really a good radio, and a 12-volt SLA battery, and it's incredibly simple. There's I probably don't have much over $100 in the thing.
Well, you have more money in the antenna and the stand than you do in the radio in the box.
Oh yeah,
well,
easily.
Well, there goes Chuck. Chuck was talking about making a recipe book or a cookbook. Well, there's the first recipe right there. Is it not?
Can I throw out a caution? If you're going to use an SLA battery in an airtight container with a radio, you're playing Russian roulette with the radio.
Lithium is your friend.
The outgassing is going to kill it eventually.
And I understand that, and the only reason that it still has an SLA battery in there is because I haven't gotten around to. I actually bought a what do you call them? Lithium iron battery to put in there. I just haven't done it yet.
All right.
I haven't used the thing in a long time.
If I remember correctly, back when I thought there was, reason to learn about Baofengs, the 82C's original version really was a Part 90 permitted radio, as was the original, whatever the original Baofeng was. But they have a bad habit of changing firmware and not updating the testing and certification. So they generally have gotten worse since they were first introduced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's a pretty old one. Plus, I went through the radio and I took out all the fancy stuff that it does. So it takes the signal in and sends it out. That's all there is to it.
You're running it at 8 watts?
No, it doesn't. This is not an 8-watt radio. It's a
an 82C. It only goes to you're right. The commercial one only went to 5.
5 watts,
right.
Yeah, and usually because I'm transmitting back to the net control, which is almost always going to be line of sight. Otherwise, why would I put it somewhere it wasn't? I can get away with just a couple of watts.
Yeah, I'm 6.4 miles from the W6BXN repeater central on Mount Bullion, and I can raise them in normal conditions with 100 milliwatts. Unfortunately, I only have two really, really old, I think they're a Linko credit card sized radios that you can set down to 100 milliwatts. So now I got to burn a whole watt in order to do WinLink through a handheld. And that bothers me for reasons I can't really explain. But when you got a motor vehicle and an alternator at your disposal, you can get yourselves into all kinds of complex RF situations.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey, Chris?
Yes.
I kind of have a question / request. Like I said, I live out here in Utah, and, I'm probably 10 hours away from most of the places you folks go play in. I had planned on coming all the way down there to Southern California and when COVID hit and that event was canceled. Is it possible to provide a fair bit more notice on some of these activities you're doing so I can get my logistics together, get off of work, do whatever needs to be done, so we can head off down the road and get together with you folks?
Yeah, that's a good point. We used to, a ways back when, before COVID, and of course before I went through a rough patch a couple of years ago. But we used to post in advance, at least save the date and approximately where we're going. We're not back in full gear yet, but we are starting to post ahead of time. We have a March event. We do have an Idaho event that we're promoting. And, you're closer than Idaho. So, I'm willing to come up to you guys. And if we can get a small group up there, we can do what we call a mini op. And I'd be happy to come up and maybe a couple.
Okay, well, I get your notifications on a routine basis. So as long as those are coming out, I'm good to go.
Okay.
There's this one coming up middle of the month that sounded very interesting, but there's no way I can get my stuff together quick enough to get down there.
Yeah, that's January 16th, so that's right around the corner. What I can do right now, just to sort of bring this meeting to a close. Before I do that, what part of Utah are you in, Chuck?
I live in Layton, which is midway between Ogden and Salt Lake.
How do you spell your city, Layton?
Layton, Lima Alpha Yankee Tango Oscar November. We're hard by a Hill Air Force Base.
Okay, all right. How did you first hear about us?
I don't remember, other than I think I was just cruising the network one day, and I saw your website, and I said, "Wait a minute, this is very cool," because the way I keep my gear up and running and configure it wouldn't be much different if some of the old radio vans I used to work on in the Signal Corps. I take all that knowledge that I've learned then and I try to duplicate it. I've got a command post with servers and 2 HF radios and a half a dozen VHF, UHF radios. I'm not all about frequency agility because I love Motorola, and because they never break. That earthquake you talk about generally doesn't affect my radios too badly.
Yeah, you can throw it around and it still stays on.
Yeah. So, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, keep going.
I was just going to say, you probably need a Unimog radio van then.
That would be very cool if I could find one.
Yeah.
There's an outfit here in Vallejo, California, I think, that was an importer and exporter of those vehicles in various forms. But I'd have to look into that. It's a while back. But Panzerfaust was one of my.
I don't think a stock mil-spec radio shelter is going to fit in a Unimog.
No.
That's what the box is for.
Yeah.
But in any case, I tend to go with more rather than less. It's just my philosophy. Because if we support our local sheriff's department out here, the radio club I belong to.
Yeah.
And my mantra is, nothing is going to exist but what you bring with you. So, you know, I don't even want to talk to somebody who says, oh, but we'll have the internet. So, I mean, kind of gives you my mindset.
Right. Okay.
Chris,
Well, yes.
one is none. One is none. Two is maybe you got something.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, one is none, two is one, three is me.
Anyway, but yeah, the earlier notifications would be great, because I've got a couple of buddies of mine and we're talking about coming your way. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we're definitely looking to spell out the year. We only kind of looked for the first half of the year. We do have some things kind of eyeballed for the second half of the year. So I think we probably want to get that posted as soon as possible.
Yeah, at least get the rest of the save the dates in place.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, we're gonna have to wrap this up, because I do want to share just some announcements of this next upcoming op. For those of you who are going, Jim asked me if I could maybe show a little overview of where we're going and the route that we're going to be playing. But before I do that, I do want to thank John Emig for jumping on here and sharing. It's really great to have John, especially when he's at the net control. And, you know, it's I have to share this. We'll be sitting there and there's a lot of radio traffic, and John will be watching the signals. And then he'll just look at me and he'll go, see that truck right there? He hasn't moved for 15 minutes. And there's all this situational awareness. We're like, yeah, is he stuck there, or is we're not getting his signal anymore? So then he'll put out a call. And I thank you, John. You're great
welcome.
with that control, and I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Could I have one more second? Could I go direct to Chuck for a second?
Go ahead.
Chuck, I would really, really, really like to participate radio-wise in the Moab 240. Could you use some help ever?
Oh, hell yes.
Are you good? Are you good on QRZ?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'll send you. How about if I send you an email? Give you my.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do. I'll put I am not shy about my email.
Okay.
I just put it in chat.
Okay.
Great. I will get it from there. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about that.
Yeah, you betcha.
Love working with you.
What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to show you this upcoming deploy and play. And this is going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody's online here that knows where we're going. I believe we're going to be at the top of we're at the north end of the Old Woman Mountain Range. So I'm going to share my screen, screen 3. And this is, can you all see my Google Earth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what we're going to be doing on Saturday, January 16th, at the request of a couple members, we picked a base camp that's just off of the National Trails Highway. And meaning it's, let me measure that. Just as a straight arrow shot here, that's 5 miles. Okay.
Actually, that's the railroad tracks there, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the railroad track. So it's probably 8-9 miles. That is now that's facing north. So we're going to be at a base camp right here, which you can get a small RV in. The road is very easy to get there. These are all drivable roads. You probably wouldn't need four-wheel drive unless you really ran into some mud or you're running on Bravo line.
Can we bring it along if we need it?
Bring what along?
Well, four-wheel drive is already attached. I'd hate to leave it home.
Oh, yeah. You guys will keep the axles on. What's going to happen here is Alpha Line is going to be heading towards the railroad tracks, and they're going to be picking up their instruction caches along what we call Alpha Line. While Alpha 1 is being acquired, Bravo team is going to be up in a mine over here. And if you noticed, and I'll play with this just by showing you, Alpha is back over there. So there's line of sight here. This is going to be a daytime deployment and a nighttime play. So what I'm planning on doing between Alpha and Bravo and a couple of these others is doing some light exercises. We can teach a little bit of CW. We can just do some very basic. What we do, guys, is in some of these, we don't always use radios. We'll tell one of the teams to turn off their radio, and then we'll give them a chart, because most people don't know CW, and we'll just give them some code to give to the other team, but they have to use a light. And so they'll do long, long, short, long, this type of thing. And that will unlock the other team's coordinates to their next cache, because they'll have a list of dummy coordinates and they'll need to get that code from the other team. So that's one of the things that's probably going to happen on this course. Alpha 2 is further down the railroad tracks over here. We're seeing double because I have two of these things turned on. Okay, so Alpha 2 is down here, and we can go to Bravo 2. While Alpha 2 is being acquired, Bravo 2 should be about the same time. So we found a little place for them to get off the road. Now these are just pretty much, anybody that helps us deploy knows that these are just our planned sites. And we get there, if it's fenced off, or we may have to just use a different route. We go further down the railroad tracks, and we're going to be in an area a little bit further in. There's a little unique area here. We don't know exactly what this looks like, an old structure. And while Alpha 3 is there, Bravo team will be over near the other railroad tracks down here picking up their cache. They will all rendezvous near Cadiz, across the railroad tracks, and sort of in a little area here. So that's just a little overview of what we're going to do. The teams are going to deploy this course during the day. And if you're on the Bravo line deploying it during the day, you're going to, at night, switch to Alpha line. So it's going to be a totally different op for the nighttime, because not only will it be you be on another line, you'll be picking up the caches that the other team laid down, and the Alpha team will jump to the Bravo line at night and pick up those caches. So
can you back out a bit and give me some context to where in California this is?
Oh yeah, let's now this is Google Earth, so it doesn't have, okay, so Barstow is over here.
Okay, there you go.
And that's the 40, and then Needles is over here.
On Google Earth, just press and hold down on the location you are, and it'll say what's here, and it should give you the lat long.
Okay. Well, I haven't learned that trick yet.
Or maybe right-click it.
Right-click it. Okay.
What OS are you in?
I'm not sure. I'm in Pro. Okay, so Barstow's over here. Needles is out this way.
Yeah, okay. See, now I got some context, because I raised my family in Moreno Valley. So.
Oh, okay. And then over here is there. So this is the National Trails Highway. This is a railroad track. I think National Trails is right here.
So Chris, this is Jim. Now, there have been some closures of Route 66, National Trails Highway.
Yeah.
My understanding is that there's some road closed signs starting at about where Chambliss is,
Okay.
which is just slightly northeast or northwest of Cadiz.
Yeah.
And I know along the way, a little further up, where
See this road,
Essex
Jim?
is.
See
I'm
this
sorry?
road? Essex?
Yeah.
You can take Essex all the way down,
What?
and
Oh,
it'll get you into this area. So if they're coming
Yeah,
from the
it's just
north,
that
you can give
there's
Essex as an option. If you're coming from the
Zoom
south,
meeting going on.
come up I forgot.
Route 66. They got to do some.
Now, when 66 was closed,
So what's going on?
it had some closures, but
I just was wondering if you got my email with my photos. I like the second one better.
Oh.
The thing is, I didn't want the background, like in the second one where the piano used to.
We need to mute some of these mics.
I didn't really want that in the picture. Maybe it could be cropped. I don't know, but it was.
Okay. You guys can hear me now? Good. All right. So thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and I don't know how to, I just muted everybody because I didn't know who that was. So,
Chris, before we close, can you do me a favor?
Yeah, Dan.
Tell me that everybody's got a compass they can set the declination on and a topo in their vehicle.
A regular compass?
Yeah.
I have a regular compass. I don't use it.
Can I be an old curmudgeon for half a minute?
Please.
If you can't read a map and compass, you have no business out there regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All we're doing with the tablets is putting our maps.
No, I understand the point. Now I'm good with that.
Yeah.
But I work with young engineers who wouldn't know how to add two numbers together to save their lives without a computer. So
I'll go one more. If you're not confident you can survive for the amount of time you can go without food or water, without relying on your awareness of where the sun and stars come and go, you need to be thinking of another hobby.
I can't disagree with that.
Well, we're good to have all you guys. Thank you so much for tonight, for everybody and your expertise and your experience. Thank you so much. Remember, next month we're going to do the same thing. First Tuesday, we'll do the virtual Basecamp. Next month, we'll be talking about onboard navigation, which undoubtedly will also have some APRS conversation. We'll probably also talk about some of our handheld devices we use to get out of the vehicle and exact locate our caches. Okay? So thanks, everybody. This was a great time. I thank you for joining us and all those who participated. Have a nice evening. And
thanks, Chris, for all you do.
Good job.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Without you, Chris, I don't think there would be a land mobile, and we wouldn't be getting our jollies off remembering the bad old days.
Good night.